I know he called it otherworldly nonsense. And I was thinking, wait, he just ignored, out of all of those TV series, I'm pretty sure that The Vampire Slayer was critically the most well received. It was dealing with issues of drug and issues of power and addiction. But if you get the government in to write scripts, you're not going to come up with a very entertaining piece of work. It's going to be sanitized. It's going to be boring. Even if you don't value value democracy or fairness of historical representation, if you want some decent TV, don't let the government in on it.
Absolutely.
That's what I mean. There's another case that, talking about, just to go back to Rupert Murdoch for a minute, I mean, I found it quite interesting. There's very little coverage of what kind of impact he has as an individual on movie output. But I did find a little thing the other day from from 2000, which was that the New York Times reported that he was basically one of his major people had to resign, basically. And it was not quite clearly reported, because I guess they had to be a bit careful about the legal issue of it. But they basically, Murdoch had been disturbed by the recent dark tone of his studio's output, of Fox's output. And that was films like Fight Club and The Beach. So maybe there is a political agenda being driven there, because, a film like Fight Club was, signaling really the potential for Hollywood to really go down some very interesting and dark and disturbing and challenging areas. But then, the kibosh was put on that, probably by a few guys at the top just saying, no, we don't want to do that anymore. You've gone a bit far. It's not really quite our thing. And then they'll say, oh, well, it's because of box office, bad box office returns. But,
Oh, there have been some cases of some great films ruined or almost ruined, such as Brazil, Terry Gilliam's classic, where he had to, what did he do? He had to make some special effort in order to get his version out there, because they were wanting to give it a happy ending, this sort of 1984-esque story.
Yeah, well, there's always the pressure to give happy endings.
Yeah.
I've been watching pretty much every day with my son Little Shop of Horrors, which had the original ending where the plant, they just cut straight to the plant, eating the woman, and then destroying the entirety of American cities with his other huge giant plant friends. And then it just goes, the end. It's terrific. The most harshest ending, the most brilliant film. But, of course, the studio didn't like that one bit.
No.
And, also test audiences didn't like it, to be fair. And so they just had it ending with Seymour and Audrey getting married.
Well, you mentioned the test audiences. Now, that's a kind of an insidious thing that has probably had too much effect on Hollywood product. And you talked about that a little bit in your book.
Yeah, I mean, I think test audiences can be a force for encouraging conformity. Is what the psychologists say, because test audiences respond to characters by saying, well, yeah, I don't like that character, or I don't like that ending. If an ending is a sad ending, it's like, well, no, I don't like that. Of course, it's a sad ending.
Yeah.
But or I don't like that character because he's a baddie. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the character is necessarily creatively a bad choice. You kind of get into sort of group mentality of things there, and I don't know, I think there's a danger. But anyway, one of the cases for that is, say, the end of the first Rambo film, First Blood. He blows his head off, but test audience didn't like that because it's kind of a bit too dark to go down that area, and it
would have ended the franchise.
Yes.
Have that.
Yeah, and of course, then they get a franchise out of it, and a very successful one too. And there's just the question mark over, is that is it good to have groupthink dictate creative output? I mean, you wouldn't really want that for if you're painting the Mona Lisa.
That's right.
Getting a bunch of amateurs to kind of say, oh well, maybe you need that to be a little bit, put in a little bit of blue. Yeah, maybe make us smile a bit more, for goodness sake.
Well, Matthew, we're going to probably need to wrap this up here, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us. Folks can, of course, go to our website and find the links to all the different articles that we've alluded to that you've been involved in writing, as well as links to how to purchase your book, Real Power. And you mentioned a couple of upcoming projects and books that you're working on. You want to go ahead and mention those again?
There's Puppet Masters of Hollywood coming out probably next year. I'm just finishing off writing now. And I'm going to be making a documentary in the summer, but I'll probably contact you about that nearer the time.
You mentioned also an article that's going to appear with you and Robbie Graham soon?
Oh, yeah. There's an article about perception management of UFO films by the government in the journal called 49th Parallel, which is a collaboration between Birmingham University and Nottingham University in the UK. And that's a peer-reviewed piece that we're really pleased with. It's kind of, me and Robbie have been working together for about 3 years, and it's kind of, taken a long gestation. But we hope that that's a kind of pretty comprehensive, or as comprehensive as it can be, look into the workings of the government in terms of presenting images of UFOs. There are other cases in there, like the Race to Witch Mountain, which came out a couple of years ago, where there seemed to be an intelligence advisor just hanging around on set. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. I think you'll enjoy it.
Indeed, I look forward to reading that.
Yeah.
Just one final thing, you in your book you compare the South Park movie to the previous movie Canadian Bacon, and where they try to come up with a casus belli, some reason to start a war so that they can just distract the populace from current issues. And when they're flashing through a series of slides of possible enemies, they show a book that in the United States was released with this particular cover. That's actually, it was a Jenny Randall's, British ufologist, a book on UFOs. And I just found that kind of interesting. I don't know if many people caught that, but I think this is an area that I keep returning to, obviously, with this idea of a counterfeit extraterrestrial foe. And so I really look forward to reading this perception management article that you've got. Well, thank you so much, Matthew. I really enjoyed talking to you, and we'll chat briefly after the end here. So, any final words?
Thanks very much for your call. I hope it was interesting to people, and cheers.
Well, it's been a fascinating show. Thank you for coming on.
No problem.
All right, everybody. This has been Matthew Alford, our guest, author of Real Power, Hollywood Cinema and American Supremacy. You can find a link to Pluto Books on our website where you can purchase your own copy. All right. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.